we're back. Welcome back to day 3, the final day of ICE365 Live and the last day of ICE London 2022. I'm Katie Goldfinch, your studio anchor, bringing you the sights and sounds from XL London. Now, we've made our way through a plethora of gaming industry's leading lights, brought you some exclusive data and insights, as well as shown you vast sways of the show. And we've got even more to bring you today. Let's take a look at the highlights from yesterday.
We're back for day 2 at ICE London 2022, and here's a quick look back at some of today's highlights. Wednesday saw a day of education, networking and mentorship take place as KPMG and the Clarion gaming team joined forces for the influential Women in Gaming session, celebrating the growing industry diversity with previous winners and nominees, along with environmental, social and governance professionals. Today saw another day of action in the esports arena as the Allied sports truck Big Betty hosted a unique esports tournament, pitching the public online against the full power of the Apex Legends team. This year's Pitch ICE made a welcome return and showcased 14 gaming entrepreneurs and startups representing the continuing changing face of the industry and where sustainability and diversity have taken a more central role. You can catch the pitches yourself in the Pitch ICE area through until the show close. New for 2022, the hosted buyer program got people back together and meeting face to face. It's designed to help the gaming industry decision makers and buyers discover the latest trends and products in the most efficient way by facilitating quality connections between the world's leading gaming suppliers. Wednesday's morning and afternoon masterclasses were also very well attended, with sessions covering how to successfully operate a full product portfolio, how to build a blockbuster slot, managing the risk of crime and fraud in the esports landscape, and looking at the operational, strategic and regulatory musts of doing business in Latin America. So looking to our final day, if you're after a bit of fun, why not check out the Boulevard Taxi photo booth or the City Park Clubhouse? Need some time to chat? Then visit one of the many bars or recharge areas across the venue, or by taking 5 minutes out, try the ICE London Quiet Room in the N3 Lower Organisers office. Remember, this year at ICE London, we're celebrating what it means to be together again, which is why, for the first time in the show's history, we're setting you a challenge. Simply share your ICE London stories with the hashtag #MyIceStory on Facebook or Twitter, at ICE365Global on Instagram. It might be a night out with people you haven't seen for ages, or maybe a snap from your first ever ICE London. Do that, and you'll be in with a chance of winning a £1,000 Amazon gift card. And that's just a small piece of the action from ICE London today. For full details of everything that's taking place this year, of course, get online at ice365.com and ICE365 Global on our social media.
And what a fantastic day 2 it was. And we'll be bringing you an even better day 3. So we're headed back to the Consumer Protection Zone shortly to feature Clarion Gaming's international charity partner, YGAM, as well as one of our Pitch ICE contenders, Better Change. There's also a final trip to the esports arena to look forward to with Ultraplay CEO Mario Ovcharov. We've also got Pentasia joining us and 2 special guests returning to the studio. But first, we're bringing in some of Clarion Gaming's news team. To start the day off, we're going to give you a quick primer of the week's major developments. And I'm joined in the studio by 2 guests to do just that. And so, hello both. I'm joined by Daniel O'Boyle and Maurice O'Hagan. How are you both?
Hi,
Good,
I'm
thanks.
great. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. So, is this your first ICE?
For me, no. This is my second ICE. Although my first one, I was still very new to the industry. The last time ICE was held, 2020. So that one was very much a sort of taking it all in sort of event, whereas this one has been a little bit more work, I suppose. But it's, it's great to have events back. With this being my second ICE. The time in between them, a lot of that, I've spent a lot of time in the industry where there hadn't been many events. So it's great to be able to return now to events and be able to meet a lot of people in person that I had only ever talked to over the phone or via Zoom before.
Yeah, it seems such a novelty to be face-to-face again.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, Maurice?
This is my first ICE, so yeah, it's been really, really fun to kind of see like the scale of the industry, I suppose. I've been working for Clarion for about a year, and in that time, obviously, the pandemic, there just haven't been many events on, so it's been really good to kind of take it all in. But yeah, no, we've been really busy, and it's been going really well.
So between you, you've got 3 ICEs under your belt now. And what have you been doing this week? Has it been busy for you both?
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of meetings, a lot of interviews, which has been great because then now we've had a lot of interviews with a lot of the really fantastic, interesting people who've been speaking at ICEVox or some big industry heavy hitters who have been exhibiting here. So it means that now we'll have, hopefully on the IGB and ICE365 sites, you'll be able to read these interviews in the near future because there have been some really great ones we've been able to get and some other meetings that I think will really help create some really great stuff in the future that you'll be able to read on our sites.
And what about keeping up with the latest news when you're tearing around the Excel? There's so much to go and see and do here, and I'm sure you've had lots of meetings to attend, etc. How do you keep up to date with what's going on out in the outside world?
Well, I suppose it's a mix between, obviously being here a while, there's a lot that you're not able to quite interact with as easily. There's also a lot of people here who you can talk to that are great for keeping up with the news and learning a lot more about what they've been doing. So that, I think, is an opportunity in itself. And then at the same time, we do have a smaller news team who are still keeping our news sites updated with what else has been going on that has maybe been easier to keep track of from a base rather than from here in the Excel.
And anything to add on that, Maurice?
Yeah, so it's really just seeing, because I suppose the nature of news, every day is something completely different. So really, you could wake up and there's a huge regulatory change. So it's really just been keeping an eye on that and just making sure everything's flowing really smoothly.
And tell us about your highlight each for the week. What's been your favorite moment?
Really just taking in the size of the industry. I think I mentioned before the scale of it, and I really just can't get over it, physically seeing, all the companies and everything land-based and online and checking out, just all the companies and what they offer and even just newer companies as well, and just really learning as I go. So it's been really fun.
Yeah. I think for me, a chance to pick the brains in person of some of the very interesting people in the industry, especially I spoke to a lot of people who were at WRB, a lot of regulators who were very interesting. It was great to talk to René Janssen, for example, about the Dutch market, speak to Brigitte Sand as well about sort of European regulatory developments in general. There were a lot of just really interesting people that it was just great to be able to talk to in person, and I feel like I was able to learn so much more about industry developments face-to-face in a way that you sometimes can't always get otherwise.
And what about those industry developments? So tell us about the sort of main developments that have taken place over the week that people may have missed whilst they've been at the show.
Well, a big piece of news that broke early in the week was that IGT had agreed to acquire iSoftBet for 160 million euros. So that is a deal that really helps to bolster IGT's online presence. So basically, IGT had last year sort of rethought their focus a little bit. They divested Lottomatica's B2C operations, and they then created a new division for online, breaking that into an entirely separate aspect of the business with its own leadership team. And they brought in really huge names, Joe Asher, Gil Rotem. So they clearly have been very ambitious about online. And then this is sort of a first statement of intent of what they intend to do there. And previously, online had sort of been a smaller part of the business, maybe a bit of an addendum to what they do in both the land-based and the lottery sector. So then this shows that they are making more moves in this area. But I suppose at the same time, if this ambition, it suggests that they want to catch up with the big online first players, the Playtech, Evolution, something like that. But this move is still, IGT's existing digital division plus iSoftBet. It's not necessarily, that itself doesn't make them, I would say, a huge player in digital yet. So I think that's why it's really so interesting, because, here's the thing, if we take it back to 2020, IGT was naturally hit hard by COVID, as a lot of businesses in the sector were. But then last year, they had a hugely successful year. They cut their leverage ratio to the lowest level it had ever been. So this was a company that then was really well primed to do big deals, to make acquisitions. And so if you look at this, you can say, IGT Digital plus iSoftBet is not in itself a big online player, but there's still, I don't think this will be the last we hear of this. If you look at the commitment they've made in these big hires, I imagine there's going to be more where this will come from. There might be another big acquisition, maybe in the platform space. Maybe it'll just be big organic investment, but I think this will be something that'll be really interesting to watch. How does IGT build out this online division?
And Maurice, you were going to tell us about Sportradar and Vex, weren't you?
Yeah, so Sportradar has acquired Vex, and Vex is an AI company, artificial intelligence, and they've been partners for the last 2 years. So earlier this week, I was lucky enough to get the chance to speak to Paolo Personeni, who is the Managing Director of Managed Betting Services at Sportradar. So he was able to give me a little bit more information on that, and he really talked about how it was like a very logical next step to sort of result in an acquisition, that the partnership had gone so well. And Vex, of course, had already been integrated in part into Sportradar's services. So as well as that, artificial intelligence, like a lot of companies are now sort of just becoming more aware of it and are just really, really looking to integrate it where they can, because it's not only just effective for them, it's effective for their customers. It makes everything more efficient. It can be integrated in nearly every area. So it's definitely becoming a very popular offering, and I'm seeing it a lot as well throughout ICE, a lot of artificial intelligence being offered throughout different companies, and companies are really advertising that they're using it now because it's kind of an eye-catching thing now for customers and for operators. So yeah, I think we'll see more of that throughout the industry in the next few years.
And what about Bally's and Snip? Any updates there?
Yeah. So Bally's has acquired a minority stake in Snip, which is a marketing, promotions, and loyalty solution provider. So Bally's is now Snip's gaming partner for Gambit, which is its loyalty platform. And so this is really just another testament to Bally's branching out. So like in terms of the loyalty business, it's really a chance to integrate in terms of omni-channel and sort of joining up that online and land-based offering. And as well as that, it helps them sort of further their rewards offerings. Of course, like Caesars is quite a big competitor, and they have a lot of rewards offerings as well, and like in terms of loyalty cards and all that. So it really helped them to kind of put their name out there in terms of loyalty and rewards, and hopefully bring in more customers as well.
And there was some news that broke this morning from the Gambling Commission.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Daniel, would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, so this morning the Gambling Commission announced a number of changes that will come into effect in September, basically about how operators need to interact with customers who are deemed to be at risk. So basically, this is the result of a consultation that started all the way back in 2020. So this has been something that has been businesses operating in Great Britain been aware that there had been something that could be happening in this area for a while. That consultation was actually the one where at one point there was a suggestion of a soft affordability cap, perhaps set as low as £100. And that obviously was something that the industry had a lot of very serious concerns about. And thankfully, to the industry's relief, that was something that then the Commission began to suggest it was deprioritizing. It stopped talking about it when it was talking about this consultation. But now there have been these new rules that will come into effect that basically outline that operators need to be robust in the way that they identify and then interact with customers who are deemed to be high risk. But the thing is, right now, if you read these rules that as they are right now, it'll say things that operators need to flag indicators of harm and take action in a timely manner. I mean, you would hope that operators are already flagging indicators of harm, taking action in a timely manner. It's not entirely clear what this means right now. It sounds like the Commission has some other definition of this that might differ from how it had handled the issue of interaction previously. But we won't really know exactly what this means in a lot of areas until June. In June, we'll see more clarity, more guidance, where hopefully the Gambling Commission will explain what do they mean by an at-risk player in terms of actual definitions in terms of spend. They said, or player behavior, they've said to look at certain indicators such as spend, such as the way in which a player plays, but they haven't really said what the thresholds should be, and without that, if these rules were to just come into force without any clear guidance, I imagine it would be a fairly chaotic situation. So hopefully Great Britain operators will be able to see a bit more clarity on this and understand what they will actually mean in June. Because we've seen a lot of the time a lack of clarity has sort of led to a lot of problems in terms of these issues around interaction. Like earlier this year, 888 received a very big fine. Basically, it had a lot to do with the fact that they had set thresholds for interactions at a level that the Gambling Commission decided was too high, and they were taking action when customers reached these thresholds, but the Commission decided that they were too high. And so, that's something that if there isn't clarity on exactly what at-risk means and what flagging indicators of harm, what taking action means, what timely manner means, then this isn't going to be, could be pretty chaotic. But I imagine we will see a lot more clarity on this in the near future. Obviously, we'll also see the Gambling Act white paper in the near future, so the two might sort of come in tandem. Right now, the one area where it does seem there is some clarity is that it says that these customers who are deemed to be at risk, that operators shouldn't market to them, and that includes that operators, third-party partners, shouldn't market to them. So we may have to see some, we'll still have to see exactly what that means in terms of it'll obviously have to address more direct marketing rather than untargeted marketing. But it seems like that will be the key point right now. And then in the future, we'll see this develop and hopefully get a bit more guidance on exactly what it will mean. Where is it that operators will need to react, when and how?
It seems like June's a long time to wait to know what that means.
Yeah, I suppose it is, especially considering that the consultation had been out for a long time, so the guidance perhaps could have been developed earlier. So I imagine that there's a feeling that the Gambling Commission probably wants to see how the Gambling Act review develops a little bit and see whether there's going to be certain other rules that are imposed through that. If there was a soft affordability cap imposed through the Gambling Act review, then these rules would have to come in tandem with that. So I imagine that that's the reason for the wait.
Thank you both, Maurice and Daniel, for coming on and giving us some insights from the Clarion Gaming News team. Up next, we're going over to the Consumer Protection Zone, so stay tuned.
I'm joined at IceFox by Per Yoldung, who is CEO at Casino Cosmopol and also chairman of the board at the European Casino Association. Per, earlier this year the ECA warned that European casinos still spent much of 2021 subject to COVID restrictions, and as COVID measures are easing, is the industry still in a recovery phase?
Yes, I would say so. It differs a lot between the different countries. In some countries they are back and even above sometimes, but most countries are struggling to get back.
Aside from the pandemic, what are the main challenges that casino operators face?
Well, it is, I would say, the competition from online, from illegal operators, but also from very successful and strong online casino providers. Some of our members also provide online offers with casino games. And that is really where the growth is right now.
Can you give us an idea of the scale of the challenge for land-based operators in terms of sort of pre-COVID and post-COVID online versus land-based?
During COVID, the average European casino was closed for 150 days. A lot of countries lost more than half of their revenue. At the same time, you see that the online growth has been fantastic, and it's been about 50% per year during COVID. So it's a very strong developments online.
And what do you see as the industry's biggest opportunity in the coming years, and how does Casino Cosmopol aim to take advantage of that?
A lot of our members will continue to develop the online casino offer that they have, but also within the land-based casinos, they will work a lot from what I understand with the total casino package, meaning making it more fun, more entertainment, more F&B offers, and just make it more for a broader spectrum of casino-going audience than just the bigger punters. It will be more of an entertainment center and less a gambling room.
And now we're heading over to the Consumer Protection Zone, where Andy will be interviewing Ian Shanahan, the Director of Business Development and Fundraising for YGAM, Erica Young, the Regulatory Affairs Director for Better Change, and Heather Lee, the Manager of Public Relations and Communications from the Responsible Gambling Council. Andy, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Katie. Yes, welcome down to the CPZ zone at ICE London 2022. And as you say, I have Ian, I have Erica, and I have Heather with me here today. Thanks for joining me today. It's been a great show so far, hasn't it?
It has.
It has, okay. Ian, I'm going to start with you. Tell me how important the initiatives that have been carrying on down here at the CPZ are to raising the profile of the charities that represent gambling harms.
Well, I think the first thing that I think struck us was the change in format. I think it's very different to what we've seen. I've not met anybody yet that I've spoken to that doesn't think that this is an amazing setup, and we hope this continues to next year, because the opportunities for being able to network and collaborate, everybody knows where they're going, so they can come to one zone and they can speak to all of the charities and supporters in one area. So this has been a fantastic initiative, and we're happy to support this again next year if the opportunity arises.
So tell me about some of the work that YGAM has been doing over the last year to expand its services.
Well, obviously, as with many, we did move a lot of our content online. We had to, obviously, and that really was quite beneficial to us, because we saw that a lot of people started to pick up on the programs. But also, we've moved into different areas now. Obviously, we have student services as well as our national education program, which is supporting teachers and young people. But we've also expanded into sort of doctors' surgeries, where we're educating doctors. And we launched our Safer Gambling training program, which was launched in April last year, and that's been hugely successful.
And the Safer Gambler training, how does that, you mentioned that obviously, how does that look in real life, in the lived experience?
Well, obviously, we have lived experience that is part of our training, and we built the training in partnership with Bet No More, who's one of our supported charities. The idea really was to build a suite of training programs that were designed specifically for people that work in the gambling industry. So it's around understanding vulnerability, understanding gambling-related harm, enhanced skills for interactions, which is incredibly popular at the moment. We also look at safeguarding and welfare, health and well-being, and also signposting. So we broke it up into different sections to enable operators to be very specific about what they wanted to train. And we've also given them the opportunities to be able to do it online through our e-learning portal, or we can do face-to-face, or even online facilitated training, which we've done an awful lot of and have become very effective at. But the training program, as I said, it was launched early last year in conjunction with Bet No More, and it's been amazing how the operators have taken it on board and started to run with it. So really impressed.
Let's talk about the operators and the industry. How do you think they could better support the work that YGAM does?
Well, I suppose from my perspective, I think there's always that opportunity. YGAM are on the Gambling Commission red list, so if their annual contributions are going anywhere else, obviously we'd love some of that or part of that to come to YGAM. Plus also, if you do purchase any of the Safer Gambling training programs, all of that profit goes back into the charity to fund the social cause.
Ian, thank you very much indeed. Now, Erica, just moving to you now. Obviously, tell us about the inspiration for Better Change, the organisation that you are the Regulatory Affairs Director for. What inspired the business?
Okay, well, Vicky Reed, who's our founder, who was head of product for an iGaming company. She was doing some studying at Harvard, and she met the boss of a social housing company. And he had a very challenging conversation with her about the harms he'd seen from gambling and people who couldn't afford their rent because they were gaming away their money. So from some really robust conversations in which Vicky kind of defended the industry and said it wasn't that they were doing nothing, there was lots going on, but more could be done. From those conversations, the idea for Better Change arose, and so that's why it now exists. And Dave Searle, whose company, the housing company, he's actually financially supported the Better Change while we're trying to get up and running. So it's been really important.
And as the focus on player safety increases across all the regulated markets, multiple markets, how important will external providers like you be to ensuring that there's an effective safety net for people?
I think there's a really important place for external providers. I think what's really fundamental is that there is buy-in to safer gambling and player protection in all the organisations. Everybody who is making money from gambling has a duty to protect people from the risks that we know exist. But there's only so much people can do internally, and there's some. Just look around the CPZ. There are some really good tools, some really good organisations, some great things going on that can. So working with the industry is really powerful.
Working with the industry then, so of the CPZ, how important is this area in furthering the social responsibility mindset across the industry? Or you obviously think it is?
Yeah, I think it's phenomenally important. I was delighted the first year that we had the zone, although it was kind of tucked away in a back corner. Now we've got a fantastic, really central location. Nobody can miss it. And these organisations like ours, we can't afford a big glitzy stand. We can only have a little place. So if you group everything together, for every operator should come and see what there is, and wander through and talk to people. And in one hit, they can just see so many different things. So it's brilliant.
And do you feel the sector's doing as much as it can to protect players?
It can always do more. I think if the less good came up to the level of the best, it would be pretty good. I think it's easy to knock the industry. And one of the things Better Change really believe is that the industry are not all the bad guys. People don't go to work wanting to destroy people's lives. They do want to get things right. Most of them do want to get things right. So we just all need to work together on it, and we can do better, and we will do better. But we shouldn't think that we're not doing anything, because we are.
Okay, so give me an insight into the next 12 months for better change. What can we expect from you guys?
Well, we're partnering with ESG Gaming Lee Willows, and also with the Centre for Excellence in Responsible Gaming at the University of Gibraltar. So we've got lots of projects that we have planned. We've had some really good conversations with possible funders. What we need is for some of those organisations to just get us across the line and actually give us some money, and then there's so much we can do if we get some funding.
That's the golden ticket, isn't it? Erica, thank you. Heather, our final guest here down on the CPZ today, from the Responsible Gaming Council. Give us an insight, Heather, into some of the projects that you're currently working on.
Yeah, so for us, we just legalized our online regulated market, so we're looking to really build the capacity there. Some projects we're going to be looking at are obviously key topics around advertising and standards, also digital tools, as well as exploring more about the online expansion.
And obviously you do a lot of research. How are you looking to expand that in the coming months?
Yeah, I think capacity building is going to be pretty important for us, and obviously leveraging our collaborations and working collaboratively with our partners, new and existing, globally. And I think access to creative and high quality data sources is going to be really important, especially for us going forward.
Now, of course, in your home province of Ontario, we've recently seen the launch of regulated betting and iGaming. How have you been doing to prepare for that?
Yeah, so in preparation for that, we've done a lot of work, of course, well before the launch, working with governments and regulators and operators just to ensure that responsible gambling is at the forefront. We've also been part of the consultation, changing the standards and regulations for iGaming, which is actually very fluid. It's constantly changing, which I think is a very proactive way to look at things. We also have RG Check, which is our accreditation program, embedded into the operators' licenses when they come into Ontario. So I think that really goes to show Ontario's public health approach to gambling harms. Making that really part of the core is really, really integral. And also we're just also doing a prevalence study as well, just to see what the impacts of this new online expansion will be. So that's going to be really important too coming forward.
We've heard from Erica and Ian about how important for them they feel that the consumer protection zone has been. How's your experience been this year?
It's been absolutely fantastic. It's my first ICE, but I do want to echo what Ian and Erica have both said about the location of this and how open it is. I think it really fosters a lot of great conversations with regulators, operators, but also affiliates and other types of companies in the industry. And I think it's really important for that collaborative approach going forward.
And if there was one thing that you could say to every gambling operator to better protect their players, you've got the button, you can send the email, what would be that one thing that you would say?
That's a hot topic. I think for us it would be about having evidence-informed RG policies, the importance of data. I think a lot of the conference and emerging themes of what I've heard is that responsible gambling is everyone's responsibility. So I think that having those in place with using the data and leveraging our research communities will really go far to sort of identify and even increase the effectiveness of our best practices going forward.
Heather, thank you very much. Erica and Ian as well, thank you for your time. Well, as you can hear, the action and the interesting things taking place down on CPZ today are taking place until show ends. So get on down here if you can. And for the latest and everything, of course, from this year's show, it's ICE365.com. Katie, back to you. Hello and welcome to ICE London 2022, down on the show floor. What a great first day it is today with Ed Blanc now from Sport Radar. Ed, welcome to ICE London 2022.
Thank you.
Good to have you here again.
I'm excited to be here again. I mean, it's been, for everyone in this industry, 2 years, right? 2020, February, we shut down the lights and no one knew that it was actually literally shutting down the lights. So it's great to be here again.
So obviously this year the theme is all about being back together again. How does it feel for you as a business to be here? Because it's not just about businesses, it's about engaging again.
It is. I mean, businesses is about engagement. Business is about relationships that you have built over the many, many years. You know, it was good to see how our industry, how resilient our industry was over the last 2 years. You know, digitalization was definitely something that was driven by the pandemic. People needed to find ways to communicate, to work with each other, to collaborate. But you know what, in the end of the day, just being again here with all our, you know, our market companions, our customers, our partners, see people face to face, tremendously important.
And what are you looking forward to the most then over these 3 days?
I think, as always, is seeing what the industry has cooked up, right? What are the innovations the industry is looking at? What are the needs from the industry? How we as an industry work collectively together to create the value that we do for many, many years. And I'm looking forward to see what the operators are doing, what our market companions are doing, and also to show what we as Sport Radar are bringing to the market.
Well, let's talk about what you bring to the market, your products, your offerings, your solutions. A varied showcase. What's new for you guys?
I think one of the things you will definitely see from Sport Radar is that we put more and more emphasis on the user. So the end user, the user engagement, and making sure that for the industry, for the operators in this case, that they have more ways or new ways to engage with the end user. So our marketing products have expanded, our ads portfolio has expanded towards paid social, more and more paid TV type of applications. So really targeting the punter in the end of the day. I think our algorithms and the data sets that we have got much better and has much more extended. I think the industry will notice that. That's certainly one. And on the other side, if you look at managed trading services that we introduced already many years ago, we're now trading over 1.6 billion a month in turnover, which is huge. That's a huge trading effort, and that together with our managed business services, whereby we basically provide a sports book to the industry, is some of the areas where we have put a lot of development in, and you know, it's going to be noticeable in the industry.
Now that development is starting to show real dividends for you guys.
Yeah.
What's going to happen for the rest of 2022? Crystal ball time, Ed.
You know, with the last 2 years, what I've learned is looking forward is very difficult. But no, I mean, I think the industry, if you look at the sportsbook industry, I mean, a lot of that is about player acquisition, player retention, player activation. And yes, I mean, the models with bonus, sign-up bonus, you know, all of these are very important parts of the industry in their CRM spend or CRM positioning. But I think understanding the user, understanding the end user, understanding their particular needs, wants, at what moment in the day, is where the data that Sport Radar has and the analytics that we have provided over that data is going to make the change. And that's what you will see from Sport Radar more and more in the industry, is a strong, strong partner where we actually can provide that detail to all our industry partners. So, definitely.
Good news. Ed, thank you very much for your time. Nice to see you again. And remember, of course, for the very latest on everything from the show ICE London 2022 this year, head to ICE365.com.
We're joined now by Ranjana Adhikari from Indus Law. thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Johnny, for having me.
Pleasure. Well, some Indian states are looking to restrict or prohibit gambling. There's increasing optimism about legislation. What do you feel is more likely?
Well, I do believe, look, you have to understand the dynamics in the country to answer this question. You don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. And what I mean by that, there's the skill gaming industry, and then there's the rest of the kind of gaming products you may have, which may have chance-based products, etc. I think legislation might be more realistic in the short term for a skill gaming industry. You could be bullish or bearish about it for the gambling industry, but we do have some form of legislation in certain states for them. Having said that, my crystal ball gazing would be more, my bets are really placed on the skill gaming industry, so legislation should be in the offing there.
Okay, well that's good. And what, in your view, will the market look like? Do you foresee a state-by-state regulatory model?
Well, I would really hope that's not the case. I think in an iGaming market, if you do a state-by-state approach in a country like India, you will kill the potential that that industry would have to offer. Now, this might be very different in terms of the approach that maybe the US might have in this regard. But just kind of having studied that market very closely, I think the true potential lies when you have a central law for either parts of the industry. I think today, the skill gaming industry has already given them a business case to show how the industry could do well if there's something more central or federal in nature. And I guess that kind of answers your question, right?
Yeah. So how can businesses prepare for a future Indian market?
If you are looking at entering the market or having India in your business plans, depending on the gaming product that you're looking at, the timing might be right in terms of, just having customer acquisition. Depending on your risk appetite, you could choose how would you like to come into India. I do see a lot of foreign operators today wanting to take a slightly different approach in terms of maybe coming into the market, where they're looking at even local partners in terms of how they come into the market. So in terms of, I tell any of my clients when they're looking at the Indian market, what is it as a company you have as a risk appetite in terms of preparing yourselves? And I think that's the starting point in terms of figuring out what's the next step forward. So you could have local partners, you could have, a more different approach in terms of advertising for products. You may go in for a free-to-play model instead of a real money gaming model. But I think at the end of the day, the game plan is the same. Be there, have a first mover advantage, and really have customer acquisition before maybe legislation comes in.
There are lots of fantastic guests and speakers here at ICE London 2022, and our team was lucky enough to catch up with Vinnie Jones, the football hero, philanthropist and actor.
We're joined now by Vinnie Jones, football hero, philanthropist and actor. Vinnie, welcome to ICE London. What do you think of the show?
Great, Johnny. Yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of these kind of shows, you know, in Vegas and here, and this stands up to them because Vegas always try and be the best, doesn't it? But can't believe how big it is. Absolutely massive. It
is an absolutely massive show, and you're here with Swint, and you've got your title, The Crown, coming out on the 27th of April. Tell me a bit about the game.
Well, the game's basically me getting a crew of lads, and we're going to go and rob the crown jewels and anything else in our way at the time. So, yeah, it's great for me. Swint have come in with our company, Easy Odds, and we've done a deal where Swint will give a proportion of the money that they receive to Bromford and Harefield Hospital. Obviously, that's where my wife Tanya had her heart transplant back in '87, so it's very important for us to do that. So not only will it give the lads out there, women, a lot of joy, it'll also do a really good cause.
Tell me a little bit more, if you could, first, just about the sort of developing the game. I mean, how did it come about?
Well, just an approach, you know, through Easy Odds. You know, we're we're not a gambling app as such, but we give information on odds. Your best odds, you know, if there's a race on, we'll always get the best odds for you, and you can choose for yourself. So it came through that, and yeah, it's been great, really. You know, the graphics have been fantastic, and then you go into the recording studio and smash it out, you know, and put every scenario together, and then they do that with the graphics, and away we go.
Tell me a bit more then about the decision to donate some to the charities that mean so much to you.
Well, I try and do that in a lot of, well, nearly all the work I do now. You know, there's some kind of element of charity in there, whether it will be men's mental health or Harefield Hospital, because I just found after I lost Tanya, I think I had a lot of mental health problems to deal with. You know, we all do. You know, the grief, the anger, it's all there. You know, and that kind of comes under mental health umbrella, I think, whereas there's people out there to help you with that. So you know, I want to help people that have got these have had these devastations in their lives, and try and stay on the straight and narrow. You know, it's, you know, even now, I mean, we're I'll be three years in July 6th, and you know, you still have your wobblies. I kind of had one yesterday. You know, you get bogged down, and you get, you know, the grief's on you very heavy, you know, and you got to keep swinging, and you know, to keep busy and being involved with the Crown, and you know, doing the recordings and the graphics, and then, you know, they kind of keep your mind off stuff, you know.
So once the Crown is live, what can we expect? What else can we expect from your partnership with Swint?
Well, obviously we'll see how this goes, and if it starts being successful, then there's other plans in the future to do other games.
What else are you up to outside the world of gaming? Have you got any projects in the pipeline, acting projects, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the gaming's getting bigger and bigger, and I'm finding myself doing more stuff with that. But I'll be going back next week to LA. It will be my wife's birthday, so I shall go back to Forest Lawn and visit her with my daughter, and then I'm going to go onto New Zealand, and I'm going to do a show out there, TV show out there for a couple of weeks, like a survival thing, whereas I'm the host. So I'm kind of in the 5-star hotel, like Ant and Dec. And then I come out, and they're all starving, hungry, and everything, and I shall ask them whether I should have the poached eggs or the eggs benedictine back at my hotel. But no, it's kind of it's like a survival game show.
Hello, welcome back. We have an exhibitor feature up next. We have Igor joining us. Igor Zimmerman, the sales director of LATAM and Spain for Zoom. How are you, Igor?
I'm fine, thank you.
How are you finding the show?
Well, excellent so far. Yes.
And so tell us about your business and what you provide for the industry.
Well, actually, we are a specialized supplier for the table gaming machines. We are based in Central Europe in Slovenia, and we are producing the machines for all over the world, actually.
And so how many years have you been exhibiting at ICE?
Well, already about 10 years.
10 years?
About 10 years for sure, yeah. We are presenting here from 10 years for sure. And in this event, actually, we are glad to be here after 2 years, you know. And you know, many of big producers canceled the show, so I don't know. We are really glad to be here, and we are showing the loyalty to the show as such, you know. So we are really happy to be here.
And have you yourself, Igor, been here for those 10 years?
Yes, exactly.
Have you seen a big difference over that time?
Yes, of course. The game is, I mean, the show as such is extremely bigger, more modern, more, in any aspects, you know, better than it was 10 years ago, of course.
Yeah. And so 2022 has been a slightly different show. Has it been different to previous years? Is there a sort of difference in energy or business?
Yeah, well, probably business also, synergy as you're mentioning, you know, because now it's more sports shows. I mean, land. There are not many land-based producers, you know, the machines as we are specialists, you know. So we are probably the only land-based producer of the machines, because the majority of all the show is internet and then sport booking, you know, and sport bets.
Yeah. And what has been your highlight of ICE London?
Well, our highlight is to expose our new products, you know, our new products, a multi-gaming platform, including 6 different gamings. Also new slot machines, new roulette, new hardware, new software. So actually in the past 2 years, we've been working hard to be able to show and to expose our best products in this show.
And what are you looking forward to today? It's the last day. Is there anything you're going to go and see?
Well, actually, we have been a lot of success in the past 2 days. We are really satisfied and with the outcome, let's say, with the customers. We had a lot of customers from all over the world, from UK also, from Latin America, America as such. So in the last day, probably there's not so much traffic than it was, let's say, in past 2 days. But still, I mean, we are happy to be here and to be able to present our products to all the customers.
And how important do you think ICE is to business for the rest of the year?
Well, for sure. I mean, for us, ICE at the moment is the best opportunity to promote and to expose our new products. That's why in that concern, I mean, we are really happy that we are able, that our customer sees the products, you know. Otherwise, it would be quite complicated, you know.
Thank you for your time, Igor, and for visiting us on ICE365 Live. That was Igor Zimmerman of Zoom. So up next, we have a feature with IGB Pentasia, the salary survey. Stay tuned.
Thanks a lot.
Hello and welcome back for the feature of IGB Pentasia Salary Survey. So IGB's has partnered Pentasia for the annual salary survey over the past 4 years, and 2021 showed a significant uptick in sector salaries. Online gaming industry pay packets rose by an average of 12%, with increases of 25% and beyond, which is now commonplace. This ultimately makes it harder for companies to find talent, expand, and grow. The full report is available on igamingbusiness.com. And here to talk about the results, we have Andrew Cook, Head of Europe at Headcount, and we have Alistair Cleland, the Managing Director of Pentasia and Headcount. Welcome to you both.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
Very well. Thank you. How are you? Good, thank you.
Yeah, good. Day 3 of ICE London. Yeah. How are you feeling?
Tired.
Did you go out last night?
No.
No?
Early night.
Very sensible.
Emotional. We knew we were on TV. No, it's been a good show. Thank you. Really good.
Ah, lovely to have you in the studio. So it's new for ICE London. It's a new feature. Yep. Hopefully it stays, eh?
Absolutely. Yep.
Let me come to you first, Alistair.
Yes.
Have you seen an improvement in the hiring squeeze outlined in the 2021 salary survey?
The simple answer is no.
Okay.
We haven't. I was going to read out some stats, if I may, just from
that
came out of the survey, because they just haven't improved, which I think might be interesting. So, of the survey outside of the salary, 57% of all customers said that tech hiring is the highest area of demand across the world. 65% of customers were looking to expand their headcount across 2022. 93% of customers were looking to use training programs to boost skills and productivity, and 70% rated talent shortage as their biggest hindrance to growth. So that's just interesting, I think, to take a bearing on. Has it improved? No, it's probably worsened in terms of enough people to service the level of demand across both the gaming sector and the payments and fintech sector.
And did that come as a surprise to you?
No.
Okay.
No, it hasn't at all. No, it's been worsening, if you like, in terms of demand for people, and the lack of available skilled talent has been reducing. That gap's been reducing for the last 18 months, since really COVID started to calm down a little bit. The demand we can't find the supply to feed the demand.
And what kind of impact is that having on the market and the industry?
Well, take that.
It's causing problems. I think there's people talk about the war for talent. I don't think there's a conversation that we've had this week that doesn't reflect the fact that there's a shortage, but I'm not sure that necessarily a lot of companies have perhaps thought about how they rectify that. That's the problem, but what's the solution? I think we are certainly seeing that recruitment is taking longer. I think there are challenges in terms of finding the right people. Demand, because of other factors that have become prevalent outside of COVID, in terms of remote working and so forth, have just put greater pressures on the skill set that people need to have and be able to demonstrate, to have the trust to be able to be brought on board. We don't have a magic wand, and I think...
What? You don't have a magic wand?
No. Contrary to popular belief. Because I think there are lots of conversations that we have on a daily basis where I think that is the level of expectation. Yes, we're in the talent industry, but our skill set is to go and find that talent. It's not that we have an available pool immediately and instantaneously. I think companies need to invest in their own hiring. Giving us the responsibility or trusting us to support them is one thing, but it's a partnership. It's a two-way process.
Thank you, Andrew. And if considering tightening regulations in Europe, could this put a halt to the industry's growth on the continent, do you think?
I don't think so. Halt is quite a strong word. I mean, I would interpret halt as stop. Will it have an impact? Yes, because there are factors that come into play in terms of critical mass, where the talent is located. Is it something that needs to be considered in terms of how to approach the market and hiring processes? Absolutely. Does it put challenges on the client, the candidate, and us, in partnership to try and support that hiring? Absolutely. Will it put a halt to it? No. No. I would suggest that the vast majority of the interest this year to date has been focused around Europe, and that trend is to continue.
Yeah. And I think all I would add is that what organizations are doing is, because you're absolutely right, it is tightening regulatory and compliance across Europe, is organizations are looking at new markets. So there's still opportunity to grow. It might just not be where they currently are, but that's still feeding demand for people.
I think companies are just having to be more flexible as well around thinking about how they onboard talent, where they find it, where they house it, the nature of the engagement. It's just putting extra pressures around, as opposed to we're just going to build an office in location X and staff that on a 5-day-a-week basis. It's changed the mechanics of how companies want to think and action.
And the US is opening up now as well. Is that creating an extra squeeze?
It is in their own country. It's not so much from a European perspective. The difficulty is getting visas for people from Europe to enable them to move to the US. Unless you currently work for an organization that has a location, you can move them. If you're trying to put people in or attract with no European location, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
What we're seeing actually is now, I think US organizations are looking at setting up a European hub to enable them to get European talent across, whether it be sportsbook, casino, technology or payments. Is a different way rather than trying to get them to the US, which is very, very difficult. It's a handful, not swathes of people.
Yeah. And how do you think European companies are managing to retain their talent, and also what are they doing in the States to attract candidates across the pond?
Do you want to say that?
I think in terms of retaining talent, we've certainly seen some changes in the dynamics. I think one of the statistics that Alistair referred to was 93% of companies are looking to train their staff. Maybe that's not something that they've invested in to the degree that they will do now moving forward. I think they recognize that hiring people is an expensive, time-consuming, lengthy process. So if we have the resource available, maybe we can bring people in at a more junior level and offer them a career path and professional coaching. I think the other dynamic that we've seen, and again, has been prevalent, I think, in other sectors and other industries for a long time now, but is coming into gaming and payments, is the sort of the phenomena of counter offers. Companies they're reluctant to see good talent leave, and are fighting harder to keep it.
Yeah. So, sorry, to answer the question as well in a different way, is what are they doing to keep their staff? They're looking at benefits packages, they're looking at the pay grades, they're looking at, because they're having to really looking at more flexible hybrid arrangements rather than being in the office to being remote, that everyone's having to do the same things to retain their staff. Those that are saying perhaps you need to be in the office 5 days a week are going to really struggle when so many others are offering a much more flexible arrangement, and then they're having to look at the pay scales.
Yeah.
Because people are leaving, unfortunately, for money being one of the driving reasons.
There is significant wage inflation, and I think companies have got to try and answer that. There have been examples of firms that haven't reacted. There have been examples of companies that have gone through fairly detailed mark-to-market exercise, and it's paying dividends in terms of offering something that is realistic, to be able to keep talent.
And the US industry is 4 years old now. Has that sort of changed demand for clients and candidates over that time?
Well, only in the sense of it's creating more demand from a marketplace that historically hasn't had the right sort of skilled, experienced, trained talent across providing sportsbook and trading and the iGaming side as opposed to the land-based casino side. So we are encouraging organizations over there to really look at training as well as looking at, bringing people in, look at how to train and develop your current and new staff, and also encourage them to look at people from adjacent spaces, whether it be technology or marketing or wherever it might be. There isn't enough people from the industry to service the demand across the US. And the only way to do that is be a bit innovative around, bringing graduates through, entry-level people through, training them up, or looking at adjacent spaces like e-commerce or other, e-gaming or e-commerce type of organizations to bring that talent through.
And I suppose as well, from a sheer population sort of figure point, obviously there's more people to choose from, literally. And also you talk about training there. So is there sort of more homegrown talents, as it were, to choose from, perhaps?
Well, a number of our of our customers have taken, for traders as an example, or junior traders, they've taken people from college who are highly interested in sports, put them through a number of training courses, then develop them to become traders. So we're encouraging that, because there isn't trained traders, if you like, who do the odds compiling for the industry over in the US, because it's a phenomenon that's very new. It's been dealt with from abroad for so long.
I think all I would add to that in terms of trying to offer a view in terms of how companies can then react to that is simply that, 4 years is, it's a period of time that I think a lot of clients are now beginning to recognize that people should have industry experience. And therefore, by nature, you're actually condensing the population. You talk about, the number of people in the US, full stop, versus the number of people that are actually in a specific industry. And there's a tendency, I think, once a market begins to mature, that companies think that they have to hire from direct competitors or they have to hire direct industry professionals. Whereas I think in certain cases that might be the case, might be relevant, but there are a number of different disciplines and functions where, a little bit more creativity, whether it's agnostic because of transference of skill set or whether it's the opportunity to bring in people at a junior level, should really be looked at quite strongly. The more flexible you can be, I think the more successful you'll be in building a loyal workforce.
Yeah.
And have you seen a demand for specialists, Web3 specialists, for example?
Yeah, there's a growing demand for that across the blockchain, the crypto sector, the NFT sector. I mean, it is a growing marketplace. A lot of the industry are looking at diversifying into those areas. It is, again, a new phenomenon of skill that is required. And look, we're trying as a business, I suppose, to react to and innovate ourselves in terms of how we support customers from a talent perspective, whether it be partnering with companies like a Rubik in terms of graduate entry, who bring through a lot of junior tech graduate developers and offer them to the marketplace, to sort of enterprise solutions. But certainly Web3 is becoming a much bigger phenomenon. I think we were reading that 1,000 companies had registered in Dubai, as an example, in that space in the last 12 months. I mean, it's incredible. It's a big phenomenon. But again, there isn't necessarily the skill set there to deliver to the demand of positions available.
Interesting. And so at the beginning you read out the statistics that you said you had, in essence, predicted.
Yeah.
What are you predicting for the rest of the year?
Good question.
Well, it's not going to get any easier. I suppose. I don't know in terms of percentages. I mean, those came out of the survey that customers were telling us where their pain points were, what the issues were. I can't see it improving. I think our organisation and others that support this industry from a talent perspective just need to try and innovate and find different ways of supporting the level of demand, whether that be looking at diversity, which is a huge thing at the moment across certainly our industries, whether it be gender, ethnicity. Diversity is a huge part of what we need to look at as an industry. Graduate entry level. We need to be looking at ways of supporting the demand, because there's no easy fix. So it's not going to improve, I suppose, is my answer to that question.
Oh, so not hopeful then.
We don't have a wand, as we said. But
unless I find my magic wand.
Yes, maybe someone at the show has one.
Indeed.
And what about you, Andrew? Any predictions?
No, I think I'd echo what Alistair said. I think on our side of the business, demand will continue, I think, to accelerate. I think there's recruitment generally, or talent management generally, I think has been traditionally been fairly transactional. I think we'll see closer partnership. I think we'll see businesses looking at a more holistic or enterprise solution to talent management. Hiring isn't always the right answer. And I think one of the things that excites Alistair and I in our respective roles and businesses is the fact that we can have a more holistic discussion around training, around graduate entry, around hiring and where to hire and how to hire, and the new market entry piece that goes with it. And I think, generally speaking, there's going to be no let-up. But I think companies are going to have to invest more in their people, their L&D programs, but also when it comes to the market, how they attract the right talent.
Very interesting stuff. So, it's day 3 of ICE London.
Day 3.
What are you going to do with the last few hours?
We've got customer meetings until 4 o'clock.
Is that the right answer? I was going to say I need a beer after this.
Oh, fine. No, busy. It's been busy. It's been a really good 3 days.
Yeah.
For us, anyway, yeah. Thank you.
And what's been your highlight so far?
Just been back at a show.
Yeah.
Back at an event, seeing people face to face. That's been a highlight for me. And seeing old and new customers.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And candidates.
There's no substitute for shaking hands, meeting people. The quality of conversations, the nature of the conversations is just so different to doing this on a Zoom call or Skype. It's just been nice to see, and also just to recognise, I think, what rude health the industry's in. It's been really well attended. I think on both sides, whether that's payments, whether that's gaming, there's it's been a fantastic week.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Andrew and Alistair. Up next, we have CEO Question Time. We'll be right back.
It's great to be joined by Bobby Soper. Bobby is International President for Mohegan Gaming and Entertainment. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks, John.
What new markets do you believe might represent the biggest opportunity for the land-based sector in 2022?
Yeah, it's from our perspective, we still think Asia presents a lot of opportunities. We're currently developing a large integrated resort at Incheon Airport in the Greater Seoul area. But we also think, look, you have Japan, fairly imminent, and other parts of Asia. It's still a market that has a lot more potential, and perhaps South America. We're looking, you see a couple of new markets. Brazil, the only G20 country without, legal land-based gaming, may be an opportunity. There's others as well.
So as a tribal operator, do your views of key financial metrics for gaming differ from that of the commercial industry, and how?
Yeah, really not. I mean, we're a tribal enterprise, but we operate commercial gaming properties throughout the United States. In fact, even internationally now. We obviously operate Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, which is on the reservation. But at the end of the day, it's very similar as it relates to commercial gaming as well. We have a different regulatory body. But at the end of the day, our processes, our policies are all very similar.
And so, what do you do to assess the potential returns from a developmental project, and how do you prioritize opportunities?
Yeah. Well, a lot depends on the geographic location, right? How stable is it? What's the regulatory infrastructure look like, right? And that will dictate what kind of risk we're willing to take, right? The higher the risk, you know, the higher the returns and the quicker you want those returns, right? Internationally, you know, there's an expectation you're going to get double-digit returns, and hopefully sooner rather than later. In more mature, highly regulated markets like the U.S., you know, perhaps there's, you know, more of an appetite to have a more methodical, you know, low double-digit return.
Hello there, I am joined by Erwin van Lambart, CEO of Casinos Austria. How are you, Erwin?
I'm really good. It's wonderful to be here. Finally, we're meeting each other again live. I mean, it's been 2 years, far too long. So we're back here in London Friday. It's really good to be here.
It is. It's good energy at the show, isn't
Absolutely.
it, so far?
You know, so many good friends and colleagues out of the industry that are finally meeting again. Not everybody's here yet. I'm sure everybody's going to be back next year, but I think everybody's not here this year. They're missing out on something, as we have already found out. You know, it's really good to be back in business and also meet each other again in real life.
Now, tell us about your role at Casinos Austria. It's quite new to you, isn't it?
Yes, I actually started there on the 14th of March. I took over for my predecessor, Bettina Glatz, on the 1st of April. I used to be the CEO of Holland Casino for 6 years, which is an incredible journey. I think we did a really good job there with a really good team of people and great executive team. And I live now in Vienna, so that's a new city, wonderful city actually to live in. And it's a really good company. Obviously, what's new to me, that it's not only land-based casinos, we also have the online, which we had in the Netherlands, but we also have the lotteries, of course, and we have the Casinos Austria International Company, which has about 25 companies in 9 different countries. So it's a little bigger, a little bit more international, which I love to do, to work internationally. So it's really good fun to be there.
Wonderful. And you're joining us in an exciting time for business and the Austrian market. What are you doing first? What are your first priorities?
Yeah, well, but obviously, you know, if you start with a new company, as we all know, a CEO starts getting to know the people, you know, the real key people within the organization, the stakeholders. Obviously, we in our industry, there are a lot of them, as we all know. Regulatory framework, it's really different in every country. I think we've been trying to get some kind of European guideline on regulation, but obviously it's not there yet, so every country has its own regulation. So it's really, obviously, very crucial for me to really understand that. And like anybody's CEO, you know, I'm going to do a 100 days to 120 days plan. So the first 100 days, 120 days, getting to know the company, the strategy that's there, and obviously build a new strategy for the years to come. But, you know, after 2 years of COVID, which obviously hit the industry really hard on the land-based side, you know, I'm quite proud of how all the employees of Casinos Austria have dealt with that, and how they actually, with a new program, they got a new refit program together to be restructured. It's not only a cost-effective program that they put into place last year, but it's also a plan actually to make it future-proof, so to speak. So that's really good to see that in the first few weeks that I've been there already.
It's really great to see how resilient the industry has been during
Absolutely,
COVID.
yeah. I think, you know, it has been a very difficult time, as we all know, but I think that the industry as a whole did really use that time really well. You know, there have been quite new ideas, there's quite some innovation that's been going on, you know, and also being able to get back into what we really like to do is basically having customers and guests into our houses and also online every single day. It's really good to be back actually in that live segment as well. But it, you know, it has been a very challenging time, as we all know. The good thing, though, is that I think that's something that also from the European Casino Association, we see this in many countries, is that once, you know, those COVID limitations have gone, people do want to come back to live casinos and they will continue to play online. So I think, you know, having these new chances for the next few months and this year, I think we need to be positive about what we have achieved altogether, and we are in a pretty good position as an industry. There's some challenges, but we'll overcome them because I think we can do that.
And having come from Holland Casino, what did you learn from your tenure there that will inform your approach to managing Casinos Austria?
Well, I think the most important lesson I think that we've learned with Holland Casino is that we've been talking within the industry about millennials and getting younger people into land-based casinos. And everybody's been trying out. There's been a lot of trial and error around the world to try to find that. But I think that I personally, but also with the executive team of Holland Casino, we found that a younger generation, 25, 30, 35-year-olds, actually do like the land-based casino a lot, as long as it's the table game. So they're not that much interested in the slots machines per se, but having the social interaction and really playing together and having good fun is actually something they really like. But you need to adapt the atmosphere to it. You need to have a product innovation element of it. It also needs something from the staff, actually, our team members who are at the table. But what I found out is that they are very interested in the land-based casino, and a lot of people think that's not the case. It is the case, as long as we actually innovate the model of it. So what we created with Holland Casino is we've got the next zone with us. So basically, it's got all the elements of the traditional casino, but in a much more modern way. It's all about the experience, right? It's not only about the game, it's about the whole experience as a whole. And I think, by having those in the casinos in Venlo, in Utrecht, and also in Scheveningen. So the Holland Casino has 3 of them. We're also going to introduce more of these zones in Casinos Austria. So we're going to put one into Baden. We're also planning to put someone else probably in Bregenz, which I think is going to be the future for land-based casinos to attract a younger generation. That's something that I will bring to the Casinos Austria organization. Now, to be honest with you, I do not believe in copy-paste. It's not that, so we've done something here, so we just copy it and put it somewhere else. It always needs to be original because, people are different, cultures are different, the behavior of people is different in every country. Although we say there's one Europe, it's still a little different everywhere. So I will not copy it, but I will learn and try to bring what we've learned from Holland Casino, but also of the great value that's already out there in Austria and within all the companies that we already have around the world.
And I suppose one group of millennials in one culture may be very different to another set of millennials
Absolutely.
in a different culture. And so it wouldn't help to copy and paste anyway.
Yeah, and also I think that, on a marketing front, very often people say millennials are 25, 30, 35-year-old. I think it has much more to do with behavior. So you can have a 25-year-old baby boomer, so to speak, and you can afford to have a 45-year-old millennial, because it's all about behavior and human interaction. And I think as long as we really understand what our customers and our guests demand from us and they are expecting from us, and you actually not over-promise, but over-deliver what they're expecting, they will come back and be very loyal to whatever we're offering. And I think that's a big chance we have for the next few years to come.
And during the last few months of your tenure at Holland Casino, the market experienced a major development with the regulation of iGaming. With plans afoot to re-regulate in Austria, what does this mean for Casinos Austria?
Yeah. It's what they call in Austria the Glücksspielgesetz. So basically, that's the new regulation in German regarding the game of chance. We're still waiting for an adaptation of the law because it has not come out yet. I think one of the most surprising things for me coming from the outside into Austria is that obviously we have a monopoly to offer, online casino products, but what we seem to have is only a market share of around 35 to 40%, because there are a lot of other companies offering sports betting, which is legal, and you have a license. If you have a license, you can offer it. But obviously, a lot of people that go into sports betting, but actually play other games as well, which obviously which are not licensed, which is really weird to have a monopoly position with only having 35% of market share. So that's something that hopefully that's going to be taken care of by the Austrian government somewhere in due course, because I think that's, at the end of the day, customer protection is really crucial of our industry, but also to do it in a legal and also in a fair way. It always needs to be fair competition, I think, if there is going to be competition. So, we're still waiting for that to come in. I do not know when that's going to come out. It might take a few more months, but we need to wait how it's going to go. From the online business in the Netherlands, it's quite interesting to see, that it opened on October 1st last year. And there are quite a few limitations marketing-wise there that are got to be introduced, because I think that Parliament thought, there was too much marketing, too much advertising, so we're going to bring that back. And I think that's a very complicated situation in every country in Europe, because you always need advertising to canalize everybody into the legal offerings and the legal operators where the control is there, and also people are really being taken care of on a customer protection from responsible gaming and anti-money laundering. So I think that's, some politicians in Europe, I think, are too simple in just saying, let's just ban advertising because then we're going to be fine. Actually, it's going to be a bigger problem, because in a year's time people will go into the illegal circuit, and that's what we really do not want to happen anywhere in Europe, in any country.
That's a great answer, thank you. It would be great to get your thoughts as well on the European land-based sector's recovery. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, we were actually meeting here, obviously, at ICE, also with the European Casino Association colleagues, and I think the promising signals that we're getting is once those COVID limitations are taken out, people do want to come back to the land-based offering quite quickly, which is a really good signal, obviously. Now, we do not know how long that's going to continue. We all know what's going on with this horrible situation in the Ukraine. I mean, Casinos Austria were also helping, again, the Ukraine with our lotteries this week, or the upcoming week, to obviously get funds together to really help all the people who are in such a terrible position. And obviously, that's going to do something to consumer behavior, undoubtedly, somewhere in the next few months. But the first signals across Europe, I think, are quite promising, that, the guests are coming back. They did miss us a lot, which is really good. So I think that for the next few months, we're going to be fine. The longer term, it's going to be a challenge, because, because of the economical situation, consumer prices, inflation being there in a lot of countries. And so we need to adapt to that, and we need to adapt to that in a very early stage. But at the end of the day, I'm quite sure that we're going to be okay to really good in the next few years to come.
In 2021, the ECA noted that properties still faced significant periods of closure. So we were talking about recovery there. Have you seen significant signs of recovery in 2022, would you say, or is it too early to tell?
Yeah, I know from the last few weeks, I think that the majority of the European countries actually, somewhere in February or March or so, right, they took all those measures away, and people are coming back quite rapidly. So I think 22 is going to be, quite good, I would say. It will depend, obviously, on the situation country by country because of the economical situation. But, if you, I must be honest with you, it was much more stressful to be running a company that was closed for 10 to 12 months than actually being open. Because, the number of executives that actually need to run the company is very stressful when you're closed. And there are thousands of people at home, like in Austria as well. Thousands of our people were actually at home. They wanted to come to work, but they couldn't. So hopefully that's not going to come back.
Fingers crossed.
Right. So I think, we've had that. Leave it in the past and look into hopefully a very bright future. It's going to be challenging, but our industry can do this. I'm absolutely convinced of it.
That's a great statement, thank you. And how important has the network provided through the ECA been to the industry's development?
Yeah, it's, the situation that we're within with the land-based casinos over the last 2 years is not something that you will learn in university, because no one knew this would ever happen, not in the scale that it ever happened, right? So it's all about really talking to your staff, talking to your stakeholders and the governments locally and internationally, and also to the colleagues obviously internationally, because the challenge was the same in every country. So how do we deal with this? How do we solve this? What are good ideas to really protect our employees, to protect our guests if they do come in, if the measures are there? How do we deal with this? And I think that on a European Casino Association level, obviously that's really fruitful to have a group of people being able to come together and to say, how do we do this? And to be very honest to each other, because we're very experienced CEOs, we run big companies, we know the numbers, we know the people, we know the strategy, but this challenge was completely new to all of us. And I think that what we've learned is that if we do share in a very difficult situation the knowledge and the insights on a European level, that's important. And I think that we also work very closely together, also from a Brussels office, regarding the anti-money laundering situation. I think that rightfully so, politicians are demanding a very strict policy on this. But I also sometimes believe that it's more about politics than about actually taking care of where the money comes from. And it needs to, we want to have regulation. We do not have any problem with regulation, not for the lotteries, not for the land-based casino, nor online, but it needs to be fair, it needs to be transparent, and it needs to have the real goal to protect our customers and consumers. That's the main goal. It's not about just having another rule in place because a politician can actually have some points to be scored once it's being in place. It's all about a really good business, reliable business, protecting our customers. That's what the ruling and all the regulation frameworks should be all about. And I truly believe that sometimes it's a little over-regulated, and that actually could harm our customers and consumers, because then they will try to find it somewhere else. Instead of with the legal canalization operators, they will go somewhere else. And we don't want that to happen. Not in Europe, not outside of Europe, and not in every single country, I think.
That's really interesting in regards to the industry. I'm wondering how important the network provided through the ECA has helped the development of your career in gaming.
Yeah.
Specific to you.
It's the, I think, if you learn, I always liked to work internationally. So I'm from live entertainment, hospitality, and television originally. So that's my background. And I used to work for Endemol and large international companies. So working internationally is always something that I really liked as a human being. Meeting different people, meeting different cultures, understanding what drives people. I think, in a way, human beings are all the same, and luckily we're all completely different. And I think also from an ECA perspective, it's really fruitful to understand what the culture is in every different country. So maybe it brought the executive search agency that gave me a call and saw me on the board of ACA at one point. I don't know, I haven't asked them. But being able to work internationally and bringing people together is something that I really like to do. So maybe I was a little lucky to be on the board of ACA as well, and they saw that, yeah.
Very graciously said. And how are you enjoying ICE365 live? This is our first broadcast.
It's really wonderful. It's an inspiration again to see a lot of people. Obviously there are a few people who are not here with a stand. They're probably going to be back next year, but it's really good to really talk to people again. I think we all get used to Zoom and Teams and all these models. I think that's going to stay, to be honest with you. If we share information, if we give instruction out, if we want to talk to people, it's a very efficient and a very good way to talk to each other. That's always going to stay. But I think it's got to be and. It's not going to be if or. We're going to do it on Zoom, but we're also going to be meeting live. And it's really wonderful to be back here again. And we had a few dinners, we had a few drinks, we had coffee every morning with all the colleagues. So what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And it's very convenient, and I think that we all know this. Within 4 days of ICE, you will talk to more people than in the rest of the year, which is why these kind of conventions exist, right? Otherwise, you need to call everybody, get everybody on Zoom and Teams and organize everything. You will bump into someone here who you probably not have talked to for 6 months, but it's very efficient. So I'd love to be back here. I'm truly convinced, being from live entertainment, which is an example I always gave, I'm actually convinced that gaming, also in the traditional land-based model, will always be there. I truly believe in the digital world. I truly believe in online. I truly believe in lotteries, which I'm now responsible for in Austria. But you know, thousands of years, the Greeks played a game on the steps of a temple. Today, we all play in the way we played in 2022, and maybe in 200 years, when one of us lives on Mars, we are still going to be playing the game that we all love so much within this industry. So, and then it also means, you know, meeting people. And so maybe, you know, in 200 years, ICE will be on Mars. I don't know. But hopefully the next few years, we're all going to be back here in London.
It's lovely to imagine living on Mars, playing a game. What game would you be playing if you were living on Mars, Erwin?
I'm a real blackjack player. I'm not a heavy player, which is a good thing to say. I think you always need some distance from the product that you're actually, at the end of the day, responsible for. But I cannot play, obviously, in my home country, so I cannot play in Holland or in Austria, because, you know, when you have the responsibility of running a company, you can't. But when I'm in Vegas or Monte Carlo or anywhere else, blackjack's my game.
Brilliant. What are you looking forward to seeing at ICE London? Is there anything you would suggest going to see?
It's the really interesting thing, I think, are the technological developments. You know, it's unbelievable that we haven't been here for 2 years. 2 years along the line, technology has evolved so rapidly again. So then you think you understand what's coming up, and the next year, all of a sudden, there's something brand new. So, you know, talking around here also this morning, there's so many new ideas already, and they are not only an idea, they're already there. You can actually buy them, which is really good. So that's the thing that I'm looking forward for later today, to walk around again and being inspired about, oh, we can do this as well. We can bring in new ideas. You know, it's important if you, like I am, when you start new with a company, I will bring ideas that I already have in my head, which I think are good for the company, things that I've learned in the last 40 years that I've been working. But also probably 1 or 2 things that I've found here today already. I'm not going to mention what they were, otherwise our competition's going to do the same. But it was inspiring to be here, yeah.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today, Erwin, and for giving us your insights.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're joined now by Anna Sainsbury. Anna is co-founder and CEO of GeoComply. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Anna, while it previously fell to the operator to protect players, do you feel that the role of supplier in safer gambling is becoming increasingly crucial?
I do. I think that over the last few years, we've really looked at how can we protect players, what is it to build trust with players, what does responsible gambling look like, and I think over this conversation, we've all determined that it's not just the operators that need to focus on this conversation, but legislators, regulators, technical partners, as well as the media industry, so that we can all participate to create a more sustainable industry.
And considering the patchwork of regulations across the US, how much of a hindrance is this to player protection, and what is GeoComply doing to ease those problems?
It's not unique for our industry to have a patchwork of regulations. Every market is different. What each market needs is going to be unique. And so what we found is the way that we can participate in this conversation is actually to bring regulators and technical partners and operators together so that we can all be united in the conversation and use academic research to make really good policies and decisions so that we can implement change. And so it's been a really enjoyable conversation for us to be a part of, and hoping to see some important changes coming soon.
We have an exciting treat up for you next. We are heading out to the show floor to Andy, who is at the Esports Tournament Final Preview. He is joined by the UltraPlay CEO, Mario Ovcharov. Andy, over to you.
Well, thank you, Katie. Yes, we are back out here in the esports tournament arena. As you can see, the action on Apex Legends is taking place as we speak. Vex Gaming are up there doing their best, and I'm joined, of course, by Mario. Mario, welcome to ICE365.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
It's great to have you here, and you know, we're approaching the final day, aren't we, of the action here in the esports tournament arena. What have the highlights been for you, Mario?
Well, I think the first 2 days were a real highlight. You know, the moment the teams came on stage, we had the arena filled up. It is very good that we have the casters that can also explain to people that don't understand too much what are they doing and what the game is all about. As you know, we had a slight change in the titles last minute, but thanks. I would like to thank especially to Will Harding for making this happen so quick. And yeah, I think it's just been a real highlight for the whole show to have the esports arena and something live going on.
It certainly has been, and when it comes to esports, you were one of the early movers, weren't you? You offered solutions for the marketplace back in 2014. Has the rapid growth that we've seen in esports, is that taking you by surprise, or did you really know all along?
Well, it would be too brave to say I knew all along. I would say I was surprised indeed, because it really grew rapidly. So when we started 2014 and presented it for first time in ICE in 2017, again, we brought a whole team. It was a little bit different format back then. But since then, as you saw, like now it's a mandatory part of every betting operation, and most of the B2B companies are also looking to have it added or already have it. And since we're having this interview here and all this happening, I guess it speaks a lot for itself. So yeah, I am surprised that it was so quick, but not surprised that it happened.
And when it comes to the solutions that you offer, obviously an esports betting solution, how very different is that to the ones that are offered for the markets that are solely covering traditional sports?
Right. Well, how to say? At the end of the day, you can consider esports another sport, right? We have either two teams playing or two players playing against each other. The difference is that games are much more different than any traditional sports. They do change a lot in terms of their rules and their, how to say, in football we don't have a rule change for 100 years, nor in tennis. This game gets updated every week or every month or sometimes once a year. It's such a crucial update that the top team right now from tomorrow is no one, which it's very hard to happen like Real Madrid to wake up and just be in Secunda. So, how to say, it was a big learning curve, a combination of experienced gamers, traders, AI, and everything that we've built in our platform, and all the data streams and partners that we use, tournament organizers, to have helped us understand what is good and what is interesting for the punter, and therefore allowed us to create our product, and it's pretty much paying off right now.
So, I mean, we've been watching this quite a few times during the ICE London 2022 event. It's a huge set of data points that we're talking about here, aren't we? And the speed of the action, which we're seeing all the time. How do you manage to keep up with the odd movements to keep them up to date?
Well, that's a good question. Again, like our experience and how we really A/B tested everything allowed us to sort of filter up what is possible, what is too risky to offer, and again, what is interesting for the punter. But again, the combination of your algorithm, what you've decided, like the end goal, what you want from this market, allowed us to, create a system that can update any, like even a few times a second if this can be displayed. So yeah, it's a combination of our algorithms and our experienced traders that with working with us, they can now say they've been esports traders for 6-7 years, which is something different.
And that experience is going to serve you very well in the future, I imagine. What do we think is going to be coming from you guys, Ultra Play, in 2022?
Well, in the direction of esports, I guess we're just, how to say, mainly improving all the top titles. As a company that tries to position themselves as leaders, we are always on top of new titles or anything new that happens. But imagine it's very hard for a new title to penetrate the sports market and just become a title that's very famous for betting, very famous for watching, because, how to say, in esports we also have the football and the tennis that's been there for a long time, and just the player base is a million times more than anything new that come up, and the competitiveness that has been around those games, it's very hard to catch up with. But we are trying. I think Valorant will be cooking for the next year, and it would be another shooter that will be presented in a way that CSGO was presented. So yeah, that's what we're looking for.
Good times.
Yeah.
Mario, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks a lot for having me here. I wish we were all back next year, stronger than ever.
Stronger than ever, of course. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Mario. And we're just going to go back to Katie in the studio shortly. But just to let you know, Katie, there is still a chance, I understand, to win a PS5 here. So if you're any good with your thumbs on the gaming consoles, how about me and you do a match later? Katie, back to you in the studio.
Oh, a PS5? All right, I'm coming down to the esports arena very shortly. I am joined by Stuart Hunter in the studio. Welcome back.
Hey, Katie, how are you? Good to see you again.
I'm well, thank you. Should we go down to the esports arena and...
Totally. I'll take you on. What's the game?
No idea, but I think we should just head on down there anyway.
I think
and
you
give
definitely
it a go.
Yeah, Dave, we should do it.
So how are you doing? It's day 3.
Good. I can't believe we got all the way through. I remember being here on the opening morning. I don't know where the last 2 days have gone, or 3 days have gone. It's been like a blur, but a good blur.
And we were talking just now ahead of the interview about ICE365 Live streaming out to the event. How is it sort of added to the experience?
Yeah, we were saying it's every little corner of ICE you go to, there's a little. There's screens, it's being broadcast, obviously, globally, but when you're in the show experience is exactly what we hoped it would be. Just that feeling of linking everything together, of ICE having a kind of a heartbeat, and also just giving that content and experience to those that couldn't be at ICE this year. So it's just been, I think it's been really fantastic, and it's something we're going to grow on. I think you've done an amazing job, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And the team as well, and the team.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant team, so thank you. Thank you for that.
No, it's been
and what's been your highlight of the show?
Do you know, I knew you were going to ask me that. And it's really difficult to answer, because every couple of hours there's been a highlight.
Top 3?
Well, I sort of started the week before we opened ICE during build-up with a fabulous dinner with the European Casino Association, where we got to meet some of the finest operators across Europe. So that really kind of kick-started the whole experience for me. And then running through the event, obviously we've had ICE365, as we talked about, as a new proposition here, seeing all the exhibitors come together, the level of investment that they've put into their offerings. I think I said when we opened the show, we've counted almost 1,800 product launches here this week. So it's been a real moment. But I think there's been great displays on stands. There's been great social engagements. We've had the conference that was really well received. We've also opened our new ESIC conference, our esports conference that's been there today. I was just up there and seeing that all reskinned, and a completely new audience coming in there. So yeah, loads of highlights. We've been doing these wrap-up, you guys have been helping putting these wrap-up videos together every day, and you can see the amount of things that are going on. Too many to mention, and I think I'll probably next week, when all the dust settles, be able to articulate a little bit more. But it's been a blur, but it's been fantastic.
And your work doesn't stop at the end of the show day. It continues into the night. So have you had any sleep?
Well, you can probably hear by my ever so croaky voice that sleep has not been a priority this week. Not just for me, I think for every single person that's been here. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, I think that value of being back together has really kind of been at the forefront. That together never felt so good. Has been our strapline this year, and I think everyone really gets why that was our strapline. It's been a moment. So yeah, really great to see everyone socializing, meeting old friends, but meeting new as well. And it's that whole work hard, play hard, and hopefully everyone's got some really great business done this week, but had some fun as well.
Could that be the strap line for next year? Work hard,
play hard. Totally. I think it should be. Yeah, you've made the decision. Let's roll with it. Well done.
Now, we had Naomi Barton in the studio yesterday,
Yeah.
and she gave us an insight into the figures of the footfall for day one. Have you got any statistics?
Yeah, really happy to share. Obviously, when it comes to live events, we always kind of err on quality versus quantity, but I think it's an interesting stat. I think especially with the return to live, with people still struggling to travel a little bit, and obviously we know the new date lines for ICE. It's crossing over school holidays, religious holidays, and the more and more people I speak to, they've been sharing the amount of effort that they've all put in to get here. And I think we genuinely really appreciate that. People have had to take or move holidays or be away from family a little bit and some personal celebrations to be here. So it just goes to show how important it's been for everyone to reconnect. But I want to document that myself, the team, the wider gaming team, we totally appreciate that effort. So hopefully it's been worth it for everyone. But yeah, so we've had, I think as of probably early this morning, over 24,000 attendees that have been to ICE to date. So where we end up today, we'll kind of disseminate that and share those out. I think over the course of the 2 days, we've had 38,000 visits to the show. So these are huge numbers, really big numbers that I guess in some respects might be surprising for some people, considering the challenges. But it totally shows the commitment to everyone to be here. I know 56% of the attendees that we've had this year have been from the international audience. So, I guess there was some assumption because of the new dates and the challenges globally that perhaps we wouldn't get as many international visitors. That's not been the case. So I think it's beyond our expectations in many respects. And I'm certainly hearing the same thing from the exhibitors. So great.
So it has surpassed your expectations?
Yeah, I think, ICE is a very well-established product. In a normal period, obviously it runs in February every year. There's lots of historical trends that give you that conviction of pretty much knowing where you're going to land in terms of attendees. Obviously registration for the show was really good, but we expected redemption, people turning up to be a little bit lower, all things considered, but actually that is where we the calculation, we were a little bit cautious, but that's where we've been pleasantly surprised in terms of actually seeing people make that last effort to get here and have 3 great days. So, yeah, we're totally blown away by it, and we really appreciate all the great comments that we've had from the exhibitors, from the media, from the attendees. So it's certainly been worth all the months of hard work for the team, but also for everyone that's been here. We know it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of stress, but I really hope that it's been worth it for everyone.
And the composition of the show floor has been different this year. Are future visitors of the show likely to see a return of previous compositions, or are they expecting to see change moving forward?
No, for sure. Obviously, it's sort of well documented with the new date line that for quite a lot of brands meant that they weren't able to attend this year. And obviously, our hand was forced with having to move the show because of the COVID conditions. And really moving a show the size and scale of ICE is, I would say, largely impossible. But with the help of Excel and some amenable other event organizers that had this space and encouragement to try and relocate some other shows, we were able to at least find this date. So it was either this or nothing, and the industry was saying, well, we need something to happen. So we arrived in this position. But yeah, there are certain sectors that are still kind of in recovery, and obviously the land-based industry is one of those. But this is a moment in time. This is the version of ICE for 2022. For 23, everyone is back. ICE, it's set out to represent the entirety of the gaming ecosystem. So I had a lot of comments this week because the land-based industry, a large proportion of some of the big suppliers aren't here, saying, well, is ICE now iGaming only? And it's not the case. We serve to set out and cover the entirety of the ecosystem, and that's the plan for 23. So I think this year's show is probably 65–70% of a normal size ICE, but for sure February will be back to its normal size, back to featuring all of the brands that weren't able to make it here this year, and many more, I think. And obviously everyone's had a good week this year, so everyone wants to still take a bit more space, which is going to be a bit of a headache for us in terms of rejigging the jigsaw. But that's a good problem for us to have, and we look forward to kind of working that on. Maybe we'll have a week off first, and then we'll get back to it after.
Yeah, so a little week off and then start making preparations for February. And are there any other events from the B2B team at Clarion Gaming to look out for as well?
Yeah, so we have a partnership with the Indian Gaming Association that have their trade show and conference that runs in Anaheim, California next week. They've done a fantastic job from what I can see. They were one of the first gaming events out of the block post-COVID in Las Vegas last year. And they've grown on that, and I think everything that I've seen and the work they've put together for that show next week is going to be fabulous. So a lot of the team are going to be there. We have a presence, we have a nice stand, so we'll be doing it all over again, seeing all the gaming industry. So that's coming up, and then as Naomi probably mentioned yesterday, we have our IGB Live event, which takes place in Amsterdam in July. And that was our first event run out of the Clarion Gaming UK team. We ran it in September last year, and that was the first time. And actually, that's where really that Together Never Felt So Good mantra was really born, because seeing everyone back together for the first time was pretty emotional for everyone, to be honest. So, so we have that planned for July and a whole host of other things for the rest of the year. So really exciting. Lots to keep us busy.
Yes, lots indeed. And so when will you get to hang your hat up for ICE London? Will it be tomorrow? Will it be in a week's time?
Well,
for this ICE London 2022.
So I feel nervous mentioning that, because even if I hang my hat up, let's say today or tomorrow, the operations team, who have been here already for probably 10 days, are going to be here at least for another almost a week, I guess, helping with kind of the pull-out, taking the show down, etc. So there are teams that have literally been on Excel, which feels like a lifetime for them already. So I'll be there to support them, but they have a great job to do to get the show finished. But yeah, I think we're here today, we're here tonight, we're here tomorrow, and we'll make sure that everyone gets out of the event in a nice, timely fashion, and help the exhibitors get ready for transiting back to their HQ, and everyone can travel home and hopefully reminisce and have good memories of a great week.
I think that's a brilliant place to end. Thank you so much, Stuart.
Well, thank you, Katie.
Thank you for coming back and seeing us in the studio.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So, viewers, we have come to the end of our final broadcast of ICE365 Live at ICE London 2022. Over the past 3 days, we've done something that has never been attempted at gaming conference before, and brought you a truly hybrid experience of the sights and sounds of ICE London 2022. Today, we brought you a final round of industry leaders, including newly appointed Casinos Austria CEO, Erwin van Lambart, Mario Ovcharov, and of course, Vinnie Jones, here to promote his partnership with Swint and the deserving cause it's supporting. We've also put the industry's talent squeeze in the spotlight with Pentasia. We've also brought on some of those who populate IGB and ICE365.com each day with the industry's leading news and analysis. Now, we've got to say a big thank you to everyone who brought ICE36 Live to life. Of course, a big thank you goes out to all of our fantastic guests, including Stuart, who's still in the studio with me, whether they joined us live in the studio or whether they streamed in from their respective homes. In particular, we have a big thank you to Yevgenia Derbel of Parimatch and Vladimir Maliki of EvoPlay for coming in and discussing the home country of Ukraine and the difficulties they are currently facing. Something like that takes huge courage, and a big thanks goes out to you both. A huge thanks goes out to our incredible crews, Dutch and Brit and Smart Digital, who have helped take the studio from a vague concept into a big new feature of ICE London. And finally, thanks to you, our viewers. It has been a delight to bring you the show directly into your homes, and we hope to be back with you in 2023. I've been Katie Goldfinch. This has been ICE365 Live. Thank you, and goodbye.